Good day, everyone. This is Miles Hischier with the Hire with Miles podcast. I have an exciting guest today, and I very much look forward to this conversation. I am interviewing Arnaud, co-founder and CEO of Springly, a all-in-one software solution for nonprofits. Arnaud,
Hi,
how are you
Miles.
today?
Very nice to meet you. Very nice to meet you. Thanks.
Excellent. I very much look forward to digging into your background and experience and what led you to founding Springly. But before we get into the business side, um, tell us about you personally and your background prior and leading up to Springly.
Yeah, sure. So my name is Arnaud. I'm 37 years old, father of two, originally from south of France, where I do a lot of sailing, windsurfing, sailing, and stuff like that. And I studied engineering in France first. I have masters in engineering in France, and then in UC Berkeley, in California, for a few years, and that's where I discovered entrepreneurship actually. And after UC Berkeley, I started a first company, and then a second, which is Springly. We're going to talk about that, I guess, just after.
Great. And I very much appreciate your background because I also went to UC Berkeley. I was class of 2011. So, and I also learned entrepreneurship. I think there's something unique about being in the Bay Area during the time we were there, right? With all the,
Totally, totally. It was uh, maybe something like 15 years ago. And 15 years ago in France, entrepreneurship was nowhere. Now it's changed a lot. There are more and more SaaS companies, more and more AI companies, and stuff like that. But at the time, the entrepreneurship courses I had back in France, either in engineering school or business school, were about learning how to do a business plan, Excel, and stuff like that. And that's when I got to Berkeley that I discovered real entrepreneurship, I would say, which means going talk to the clients, learning how to sell and stuff like that. And it was really game changer for me in my entrepreneurial journey.
yeah, I think for me as well, actually. So great. So tell me about the problem you guys are tackling at Springly. I've worked with nonprofits in the past with my IT business, and I know some of the unique challenges nonprofits have. They always have a lot to do, generally limited budgets and limited staff. Yeah, so tell me the problem you're tackling with Springly.
Well, first it started because I personally and my co-founder have a tech background, so we know how to build software, and we also had a nonprofit background. And the issue we faced with our nonprofit experience was it was very archaic, with papers, Excel sheets, lots of manual work, and actually there are tons of software for businesses, but very little software that is really well designed for nonprofits. It's either old, complex, complicated, and so what we do is we want to simplify and automate as many tasks as possible so that the nonprofits can take all their time for their project and to have a greater impact. And the way it works, it's a software as a service. It's an online platform to simplify membership management, donations, so collect payments, manage a CRM, manage accounting, and communication with emailing capabilities, and all this within a single software that is modular, so you can choose the apps you want to activate or not, and everything is integrated and with a lot of automation. So today we work with a bit more than 40,000 nonprofits, mainly in France, a bit in Europe, and
Great. That's an impressive number of clients on your roster. Uh, yeah, tell me, like being based in Europe, tell me about the process of expanding to the US and how did that work for you?
that's a very interesting question. The trap that companies in markets like France or Germany or stuff like that fall in is that the market, the inner market is actually quite big, and so we tend to build a product for our local market before thinking of expanding, and which is not the case for Israel or Nordics countries, which are way smaller, so they have to be global by design. And so in the first years, we focused only on the French market. And in a few years into the project, we had to rethink everything in order to go global. And so the way we did it is, of course, there's the localization of the product, translation and stuff like that, but you have to change all your processes because you need, for instance, a CRM that is adapted to several markets. You need to adapt your, I don't know, Zendesk, your customer support, everything. And in the end, you have to adapt your go-to-market. And the hardest is not the product. The hardest is the go-to-market and the customer support and the people that are actually leveraging all that. And the way, so we started it, I'd say, 4 years ago, and from France at the beginning, and then with people outside of France, in Mauritius, and in the US.
Great, great. It's interesting you talk about one of the core challenges being the go-to-market strategy, and then the people being like a huge element of that. I've heard other feedback from other companies that have built products outside of the North American market and then seeks to expand here. Tell me more about how you have your team structured today, and personally, I want to hear more about your team in North Africa as well.
Team is R&D is 100% in Europe. The reason is pretty simple. We have, I think, great engineers that are way cheaper than in the Bay Area. So R&D is in France mostly. Either in our offices, we have two offices in France and also remote workers, and sales is either in France, in the US, or in Mauritius. So Mauritius, as you said, is in Africa, and we've built this team over the years. There are about 25 persons there right now, and it's a great location because it was an island that was originally French, well, actually Dutch at first, but then French, and then English. So people speak French, both French and English. So it's really convenient. It doesn't solve the time zone issue with the US, but it solves the language problem. And so my grandmother is actually from Mauritius. It helps. But we built a team there. First 2 persons, and it worked pretty well. And so we expanded with time. And the way it started is actually we started with subcontractors, and before building our own team, and so I think that the reason it works really well is that we're involved in the recruitment process. We're not just outsourcing to call center. And then we manage fully the persons that we work with. They're part of the team. They're part of the all hands. They're part of the OKRs, all the rituals within the company. They're not just a team in Mauritius. They're part of the team. And I think that it's really instrumental in the way you build the culture and you incentivize people in the long run. You want to have them really feel the company and feel the what goes well, what goes less well, and help and manage them really closely on a day-to-day basis.
And by the way, that resonates well with me because that's what I did with my IT business and took a very similar approach. I think of the contrasting model of like a BPO service where you pay a firm and they just manage a team for you. I've always felt like that maybe is appropriate for an enterprise client or someone that has a short-term need, but I've always felt like it was a bit short-sighted. and you're not really laying the right foundation for long-term retention of those employees and development.
I completely agree, and I don't even see a stage or a type of company for which it would be relevant. Because when you're early stage, you need to learn what does not work, and you need to learn how to do your own job. So outsourcing it completely without a close relation, I mean, outsourcing it is okay, but without a close relation with the people, I don't see how it works. And even at scale, um, the way I the way I think about building a company is a lot driven by lean management. We can talk a bit about lean if you'd like, but not the Lean Six Sigma, so not the consulting lean and not the lean startup either. I'm talking about the Toyota lean in a way. So
Okay.
and that is a bit deeper, and that gives you a framework of how to build a company. And in this framework, quality is at the center, and you want to be really close to the problems, really close to what works and what does not work, in order to learn. And if you work with a subcontractor, you need to be super close in order to see what does not work. And so yeah, in a nutshell, I don't really think that there is a good stage for completely outsourcing even your customer support, and even more your customer support, because each support ticket is gold, and it's something that does not work for the client in the end, and that.
Okay. Tell me more about Arnaud's like your approach to lean management, because I like that you're differentiating it from like the lean startup and also like the formal like Lean Six Sigma methodology. Tell me more about what that looks like in practice at Springly.
Lean Six Sigma uh, has been pretty popular because it's easy to understand. Basically, it's all around processes, how you set up processes and a production line with clear standards and stuff like that. But it's a very tailorist way of thinking about lean. Um, Lean startup is interesting. They took the iteration part of the lean, but it's just the iteration part of the lean. The lean, the way it was built at the beginning, from a guy named Taishi Ono at Toyota, um, it evolves around two things. It's frameworks, mental models to build a company, and I'm going to go a bit into detail if you like. So it's real models, like a schema of how a company should be built, and it's all around how you empower the people into learning faster, and how you make everything visual so that you're all on the same page. And basically, the way it works, the foundation of the model, it's if you type lean.org, for instance, there is the Lean Institute that describes it pretty well. But you have the house of lean, with at the top of the house, you have the value for the client, and the KPIs you want to follow. The main KPIs being lead time, quality, energy efficiency, a few major KPIs. And then at the very bottom of the schema, you have stability and frameworks around how you give stability to your team by having clear standards, by having clear learning processes and stuff like that. And the two pillars are just in time, which mean you work on accelerating the pace with the tact that is very clear. And on the other hand, a clear chain for escalation that we call end-on. And so which means that you have to be super clear on the process, something that you would do with Lean Six Sigma. But the real intention is how do you get everything visual so that you can act on the defect to better train people, to better remove all the blocking points that they have, and everything. So it's a bit conceptual said like that, But let me give you a very concrete example. For customer support, in way too many companies, they drive customer support with tons of KPIs. And so I used to have a manager that was like that, with a dashboard of 10 KPIs that he was looking at every morning and managing the team with KPIs. The way you would look at it, the lean way, would be to manage just two KPIs. The first one being lead time, full resolution lead time, which is the time between when a client opens a request and the time when it's solved. It's not the first answer or stuff like that. It must be solved. So you look at the lead time, and you look at quality, which is the times that you get new defects. But the lead time is the most important. And instead of looking at statistics, you're going to go into details and look at every single piece, every single ticket, to learn what went wrong. So it takes much more time, but
Yeah, and it sounds like for Springly having like those clear few guiding KPIs has been a much better strategy than having 6, 7, 8 different metrics that you're all optimizing for differently.
that people follow are metrics that reflect the past. It's stuff that is not actionable. For instance, if you follow MRR, it's interesting, but it's the consequence of all the things that you did in the past. Whereas if you monitor lead time, it's actionable. Every single what we call it a piece in Lean, but every single ticket that is highlighted is actionable. And so you need to look at much more actionable metrics. You prefer to have few metrics super actionable instead of lots of metrics that are nice but actually not.
Yeah, sure, sure. So tell me, like thinking about the future of Springly. Okay, when we started, you mentioned the number of clients. Can you remind me again how many clients you have globally now? 40,000. Okay, I wanted to make sure I didn't hear 4,000, but 40,000 is a very impressive number of clients. Um, what are you thinking for the future of Springly as you continue to grow and scale, and what are your priorities thinking about 2025 and beyond?
There has been a massive change in the tech industry, especially SaaS, in the past 2-3 years, from valuing growth at all costs to profitable business, and so this switch has major implications. And the way I want to continue building Springly is by keeping profitable business that is still growing. So I'm not going to target 100% to 100% growth as I used to, but rather 40-50% growth, but profitable growth. And so you might know the rule of 40, and we want to be above the rule of 40, and that drives a lot of decisions. So the first impact is an impact on efficiency, and I want to continue to minimize the size of the team for the highest efficiency. I'm going to continue hiring, but with a small team. We're 60 right now, and so in terms of strategy, our main area of expansion is, well, US of course, but also Europe. And in the US, in the nonprofit sector, there has been tons of private equity buildup. There are tens, if not hundreds, of competitors, small ones usually, some very large that are mostly enterprise. But the competition is fierce, whereas in Europe, there is actually pretty little competition and a lot of build-up to do. So that's part of the plan for the years to come, to build really the major player in Europe, and of course continue expanding in the US. and that I can do that thanks to local expansion, but also thanks to the improvement of our automation, and thanks to AI. AI is actually it might sound a bit cliche these days, but it's actually helping a lot. We're getting way more efficient thanks to
Great. Can you talk a little bit more about, I mean, you don't have to share any specific details if you don't like to, but how are you thinking about using AI focused on less product, but more on internal efficiency and thinking about that within the framework of the lean methodology you talked about earlier?
Everyone, if you go on LinkedIn, everyone is using AI every day for lots of stuff. The reality is not that true. I believe lots of people are using AI for just creating content or for translation matters. And what I've experienced is that leveraging AI internally is indeed the first step before using AI for your clients. And the way we do that is, first you have to train people. So we've trained all the team to understand what an LLM is, how to write a prompt, and everyone has a ChatGPT access. We now use a tool that's called Dust, and Dust allows you to have your kind of internal ChatGPT that leverages all your resources internally. So your Notion, your Google Drive or Dropbox, your Help Center articles, everything that you upload, and you can ask Dust any question, for instance, admin question or stuff like that, HR questions, and it saves you a lot of time internally. So that's the first thing, and on top of that, this internal assistant, we can build other assistants. And so, for example, we built a data bot. So we can ask the bot any question. For instance, give me the list of the sports clubs, please. And it writes the SQL request, or it gives you a metadata data extract right away. So that's an example of how we use it. Another example is that we've launched an offer to create nonprofits. So if someone has a project and they want to create a nonprofit, we help them do that. And when you don't know how to create a nonprofit, it can be pretty complicated. When you know how to do it, it's quite simple, but pretty manual. And so instead of doing it manually, we've automated lot of this stuff with AI. So we generate the legal documents, we verify the legal documents, everything thanks to AI.
Wow, got it. So basically a series of prompts and getting information from the individual and then using AI to generate those templates and speed up that whole manual process. Okay.
And so when we started, it took us 5 hours to create a nonprofit, 5 hours of a human person. And now it takes about 30 minutes with the interaction with the person when there is a question, interaction with the administration, everything. So all the rest is automated.
Great, excellent. And then how about anything specific to like customer support in that realm?
That's something I've not solved yet, to be honest. We've tried software to automate customer support or to give a bot or something like that to the clients, but the answers were not good enough. We've automated so many things that the questions we have are often quite technical, and so the chatbots gave answers that were not always exact, which was quite annoying.
Right.
So we decided to stop it. We beta tested it, but we stopped it. And now we're using it internally for the customer support team to be more efficient. And so it's a kind of a pre-filter. It generates the first response, but there is still a human checking that. So I'd say that we've saved a bit of time, but I'm unable to quantify it for now. And it's probably the next challenge because it's not fully automated yet and far from it.
Yeah, and speaking to other leaders, I've heard similar feedback, especially with your focus on quality. It's difficult to put an AI frontline bot that's giving subpar answers, and it's interesting. I've heard other leaders say the same thing. I wonder over time if the next 5 years it'll be more like customer service staff using AI as a tool to make themselves more efficient and get their own answers back to clients and improve those interactions. But it's sort of like based on this human in the loop model versus a rip and replace. I feel like too many people have been quick to call out that AI is going to replace level one like customer service, but I don't see that in the next few years. We'll see how it evolves over time. I like to think that it'll always stay human in the loop.
Uh, yeah, I don't know how to think about that because it's evolved so much in a year, so much that it's really hard to tell. But for sure, for now, it's not efficient enough for our kind of business, at least. For very simple questions, yes, of course, it's enough. But usually the very simple questions, if you're good enough at developing software, well, you end up don't having them at all because the software gets better and more simple. So in the end, you only get the complex questions, and we're far from having an AI able to answer them.
Yeah, great, great. All right, Arnaud, that was a great conversation. I enjoyed learning about your background. It's a great starting point to know that you began your entrepreneurship career at UC Berkeley, and it's impressive seeing you take that knowledge, go back to France, and then build a company that employs 60 plus people, and you have the team in Mauritius growing, which I'm sure will continue to scale over the years. So it's an impressive background, and thank you for taking me through everything today. Great, excellent.